Okay, so you have a classic rock album collection. So do I. So do a lot of other people. And maybe it's not rock, maybe you've got a jazz collection, but it's old. Can you insure it? How do you insure it? Who do you talk to? I was faced with the same question actually several years ago. So I did a little checking recently, and I thought, I'm going to talk to my insurance agent. I have State Farm insurance, so I talked to my insurance agent. And then along with that, I'm retired, but in my former life, and before I retired, I had some contacts, business contacts. And so I happened to reach out to one of them and was put in contact with a underwriter, insurance underwriter, that's actually for homeowners insurance. So I thought, okay, I should be able to get some answers, explanation, and then at the same time I'm working with a client of mine right now that has an extensive record collection and he needs an appraisal, an inventory, something that he could give in case, obviously the worst would happen. So also had a chance to have I got some information from an adjuster, an independent adjuster, which I didn't realize at the time, but a lot of the major insurance companies, especially when there's a major damage area, like a tornado, hurricane, they have their own adjusters, so the large insurance companies do, but they also use independent agencies. So I did have the opportunity to get some information. So State Farm, my insurance agent, a client's insurance information that he received, an underwriter, and an adjuster. So here's, in a nutshell, I'll try and make this quick, but in a nutshell, here we go. Okay, to start with, there's a difference in types of insurance. So we're going to talk about, basically, to start with, we're talking about homeowners insurance. Now, you could have renter's insurance if you don't own your home. I really don't have a lot of information on renter's insurance. We're not really going to talk about that, but I was told by my State Farm agent that as far as the contents, and there's a lot of similarities in the types of policies. Another type of insurance is a collectibles insurance policy. Now, this is a special policy. This isn't a rider. It's not an add-on. It's a totally separate type of insurance. The one I'm familiar with is Lloyd's of London. They would do, like if you had artwork, collector's artwork, expensive, millions of dollars. Coin collection, stamp collections, book collection, first editions, high-end collection. This is a separate insurance policy, but they call it a collectibles insurance. Anytime you're dealing with collectibles insurance, it requires an appraisal, and it has to be someone that is certified in the United States, certified by there's a National Appraisal Association, and they have to be a member of that, so they have to have their documentation. Okay, so that's the general types of insurance. One more we want to talk about, and this is more clarifications on terminology. Okay, there is a policy that's called an all peril. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing. All peril, for some insurance companies, is an add-on policy, and it will cover what will not be covered by typical homeowners. So let me give you an example. Let's say you've got, I'm a Pink Floyd fan. So you've got an original first edition British, a UK release, Dark Side of the Moon. And it's sitting on your shelf on a display, and your grandchild decides that they want to look at it, and they pick it up and they drop it and break it. That's not covered under your homeowner's policy. Would be covered under an all peril, which means that if it is somehow damaged in the course of doing business, in the course of for entertainment, something would happen to it, you would accidentally run over with a vacuum cleaner, that would be an all peril policy that is totally separate from your homeowner's policy. Okay, next thing is that a good question to ask your insurance company or your insurance agent would be, what my homeowner's policy is a replacement value policy. And then of course the next question would be, I'm sure you have a deductible. So what is your deductible? In my case, it's a percentage of the value of my house. That's for contents is the total. So if you have a total loss, fire, tornado, hurricane, whatever, destroys your house, and obviously your record album is gone, then what would the deductible be? And the deductible on my policy is a one-time deductible. It's about $2,000 for contents. So not just on my albums, that would be for everything. Okay, so that's kind of the generals. Now let's get into very specific questions or some specific scenarios just about your vinyl collection. Okay, so we're going to run some quick scenarios here. Okay, so let's say you've got, just for the sake of keeping it simple, you've got, say, a record album collection of 100. Okay, I know people I've seen collections where there are 10,000, but in this case, we're just going to keep it simple, 100, and you have no list, you have no idea. All you know is that you've got about 100 albums. Typically, what's going to happen is that you're going to get somewhere in the range, and this was according to an adjuster, is they're probably going to settle around $4 to $6 average. You could have a collector's item stuff in there, but how would anyone know? It's not documented. You don't have any, there's nothing that you can give anyone to say that I had these, or what the albums actually were. So that's not a great scenario, especially if you've got some valuable items in your collection. Okay, so the next one would be, let's say you have a list. Okay, you really don't have documentation, but you've just got a simple list of maybe a spreadsheet. Hopefully it's not on a piece of paper that would have been burned or gone now. But anyway, but you have no documentation. So you don't have any conditions, you don't have any year, you don't know what, as far as the album goes, you have no idea, if it's 1960 or if it is a really late 1980s, 90s reissue. Adjuster is probably going to, and I say probably because every adjusters are different and every insurance company is different, but the job is probably going to do an estimate based on eBay, and you're probably going to end up settling again once in the $4 to $6 a record, which I know it's not a lot. Okay, so next step, let's say you have a spreadsheet and it has a year and you have a purchase price. What the adjuster is probably going to do is that they're going to settle in one of two ways. If you have replacement value, and let's say you just went into the record store and it's a reissue, we're getting lots of reissues of some of the classic albums from 70s, 80s, and the 90s. So they will probably settle with you for that replacement cost if you have a receipt. Most people don't keep the receipts of their record albums. Or they're going to go back again to eBay pricing, just because eBay is, as far as going with anything used, they're going to replace like for like. So all they know is, and all you've got for documentation is a list, and they're going to go, okay, well, here's one. So they're going to find some, and then boom, you're probably once again going to be in the $4 to $6 range, unless, of course, again, unless you have a receipt. Okay, so the last one we're talking about is if you actually have an appraisal. Now this one gets interesting. I can talk about one instance, and that's again is a client of mine, and what I supplied to the insurance company was what I use. This is my process. So I would get in a collection, or usually it's a small group, 10 to 20 at a time. And so what I would do, I do a spreadsheet and I grade them. I use Discogs scale because that's kind of the standard. Most everyone uses the same standard. Even on some of the stuff you'll see on eBay, we'll use the same standard. And that grading is, and I'm sure most people are probably familiar with it, you know, something very good. Mint condition, if it says that it's mint, meaning that the album, the vinyl, and the cover are both graded. That has to mean, by grading standards, that it's brand new. It's never been opened, still has a cellophane, it's still in the shrink. There's no damage done to the cover. I mean, it looks brand new. So anyway, it has to be graded. And then it also has to be in an appraisal form, which in my case is a spreadsheet where I've got the grading, the year, the country, also include the runout, and also include the number on the cover. So you've got a catalog number, you've got runout, you can prove everything about that album. And then the big question is, and I know there's controversy on different YouTubes I've watched, but everyone I've talked to says, well, all you need is to have your stuff on Discogs. No. They will not accept, from what I've been told, they will not accept Discogs because it's user updated. What's to say I've got a 100 album collection and I just grew it to 200 because it's not, Discogs is not just a matter of what you've purchased there. You can upload your own inventory. So once you've uploaded it in there, what's to say, you have no idea what, and they have no idea, what you might have put in there that you actually don't have. So you can make it look like you've got an inventory of 500. In actuality, you only have 100. The reason I know this one example and why they say no is because it's happened. So anyway, Discogs, if you're planning on Discogs, just fair warning, don't get me wrong, I'm not trashing Discogs at all. I use it every day and I like it. I have no issues with Discogs. So in conclusion, what does all this mean? Okay, I'm going to give you an example. I've got this is one album that I've got. It is a Procol Harum, and I'm sure people that are classic rock collectors know this album. This is Netherlands, so it's an import. I bought it for $6. I've got it valued at $45. Appraised. I'm going to get $45, not $6. How much of this do you have in your collection? That's the question. Thank you for watching.